Okay, same. So what we're going to be doing today is really going to build on what we did on Wednesday. So we're going to go into input and output a little bit more, and this will help you kind of catch up from Wednesday for the lab. So don't worry about that. So we learned those printfs and those scanfs, and what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to do a lot of that formatting that we kind of barely touched on Wednesday. But when it comes to those, percent signs and how to make the decimals look all pretty and stuff like that. So we're in chapter 3. And the first half, we're going to talk about printf, and then we're going to kind of go into scanf. Okay. So printf function needs to be given, we called it a format string. Okay. And that helps it know what you want the output to look like. Okay. So you do printf, the very first thing is your output string. That's what's going to have those double quotes around it, and then comma, and then any variables you need to put into that string. Okay. So the format string, in order to put a variable, we're going to put something called a conversion specification. That's that percent sign that we had talked about. So it begins with that percent character, which indicates you're going to put a variable, and then you put what type of variable. And then at the end of the close of the string, you put a comma, and then you start listing the variable names. So the conversion specifier is a placeholder. It actually takes that percent whatever out and then inputs and replaces it with whatever's in the variable. Okay, we talked about percent %d is integer or whole number, and percent %f is floater values or decimals. Okay, still not sure why d is integer. Okay, so let's look at, let's take a look at this. So I'm going to have, I'm going to have you. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to try to split the screen if possible. Dun, 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 dun. No, come here, dude, go over here. Thank you. No, dude, there we go. Okay. I'm going to try and zoom in as much as possible. Now remember, the first thing that we have to do is that hashtag include with greater than and less, greater than and less than, and stdio for standard input and output, right? The next thing that we can put is int main, int, what did we use last time? Do you remember? X. That works good. Brackets, start and end of the main. Okay, so let's go through kind of what the example is here. So they have an int I and j. They have a float. Like 2 seconds. By the time I get done talking about this, it really doesn't take very long. I equals 10. It'll take me longer to type this out. J equals 20. X equals 43.289 2F. And Y equals 5527.0 F. Because that's what it told me to put. Is yours? Oh, no, it's still done. Okay. Okay. So now if we use our printf, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create that string. So let's say I equals, and then I'm going to put the percent %d, J equals percent %d, X equals percent %f, then Y equals percent %f. Huh? I did J right there. Now there is. I followed your brain eventually. Let's try to make this a little bit smaller. There we go. So now what I need to put is those variables I, J, X, Y, right? Oh, I forgot the new line. Okay, you'll be fine. I promise you'll be fine. We got you. Okay. So now if I'm to run this, okay, this is basically what we did on Wednesday, just so that you know. I mean, this is like as far as we got this kind of review. So we've got I equals 10, J equals 20. Those are the two integer values. And then the float has the decimal point, but it has like a whole bunch of them. We didn't specify how many we're gonna put.
So we're just gonna write what you did right there. And then that's just gonna give us that output.
Yes, like right here, because it actually goes in and see how this is what it wrote. But instead of putting %D, it took what I have in I, which is 10 up here, and puts it in that spot.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it just switched it.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Now, some things to be aware of is that when you do use this, compilers are not going to compare how many percents you have in the string and how many variables you have. Okay. So if I were to get rid of one of these, compile and run, it's a little messed up, right? I got some garbage going on in there. Okay. The same thing is going to happen if you put too many. Okay. Correct. Yes, it is a logical error because it does compile and run fine, right? But that output is not correct. Okay. And it starts kind of giving you some jumbled stuff. So that's not, you have to make sure as the programmer, you have the number of percent signs and the number of variables lined up. Cool. Okay. The other thing is that it's not required to do is to check on you to make sure that if you tell it, it's I'm trying to do too many things at once. Okay, there we go. If you tell it that it's going to be an integer here and I send it a float, right? Because I have that as a float. That's another thing that's going to be a logical error. See how kind of it gives you junk again. Because you're saying I want to output a decimal, but you're actually giving it an integer and vice versa. Okay. So those are going to be not good things. I'll go ahead and put these slides as well. Again, like we did on Wednesday. Up there, I'm just kind of hitting like the highlights.
So
Okay.
you will upload the slides.
I will upload the slides for you guys. Yes, yes. It's just, I find it a little bit easier to have the dev C++ running like on the side because it makes more sense to me to see it in the actual IDE as opposed to like just reading it on a slide. So that's just the way that my brain works. So there are some things that you can do with these strings, okay? You can give it a minimum field width, okay? And that's going to give you the minimum number of characters that you want it to print. You can use this as like a fixed width table if you want to look at it in that way. And if it requires less than M, it's going to just put blank spaces. So if you say I'm going to give you 10 characters and I only have to print out 2, it's going to give you 8 spaces and then the 2 characters. Okay. It's going to justify it within that field. Let's make this a little bit smaller here. And I'm just going to put I. Now I have I as a value of 10. If I were to put a number in here and say 5, I'm actually going to cut and paste this a few times. Okay, so let's say I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do it in 5 different ways. Okay, so the only different, I guess I should put some slash ends at the end. Okay, so the only difference I put in here is that difference of the number before the D. Okay, so I put no number and it just prints the number. Okay, I print 1, it's going to print everything that's in there. So even though there's 2 digits, it gives me both of them. Okay, print 2, it's going to print 2. Now, when I get to 3, 4, and 5, I only have 2 digits. Okay, so I've got a space 1, 2 for 3.
Well,
Okay, for 4, I have space, space, digit, digit. See, you see how the 10's starting to like move over?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can line things up using the numbers between the percent sign and the D's or the F's. Does that make sense? Now, if I'm gonna put, now if you notice it, this pushes everything to the right, right? Right justified. If I come back and I put a minus sign on here, no, I'm just gonna put it on the 1. You see what it did on that last one? Remember, it was way off to the right. It moved it all the way to the left. So
Well,
it's-
it says specifically does, like, if it's- all shaded and it's moving to the right, and now one is moving back to the left.
Right. This is left justified, means it all starts on the left and all of the extra spaces are gonna be on the right. Right justified means it's putting them all to the right and all the spaces are on the left. It's a little bit like flip-flopped. Does that make sense? So if you want something to line up all on the left-hand side, put a minus. If you want it all to line up on the right-hand side, you put a plus. Okay. And you guys will have plenty of time to like play with this. Now, if you have a different type of number than the decimal, there are E, F's, and G's. Okay. F is what we talked about on Wednesday. It's that fixed decimal. It's just going to give you a regular decimal format. Okay. If you use an E, it is going to have a default of 6 digits. Okay, which it's like kind of like that exponent that used to do math, but it gives you 6. Okay. And G can be either one depending upon the size. Okay, so let's go in here. I'm going to make these X now. So percent E, percent F, percent G. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and put these in. And I'm going to run this. Okay. So you can see this different. E is that exponential form with 6 digits, and then E to the whatever. Okay. F is what we've been dealing with, right? And then G is just slightly different, and it chooses between the two based on what the number is. Okay, so there's some other extra ways that you could be a little extra fancy when it comes to formatting numbers. Okay. So let's see. We've got example here. Let's see if this will work. I don't know if that this is going to work, but we'll try. Oh, look at that. Maybe it will. Oh, nope, negative. I know. Well, I noticed the see the thing didn't turn the right color. Nope. It just doesn't like the we had this problem when we were messing with the things last time. If I remember correctly, because like when you tried to import, wasn't it the white spaces it wasn't liking? Look at that. It's putting some weird funky character at the end that it's making me go through and delete. But I'm still lazy, so it still works. Let's try that. So why is it still giving me that? Let's see. I can't read my stuff. A stray 240. I have no idea what a stray 240 is. There we go. What, this one? The problem is if I can make it full screen, it doesn't really help. Yeah, it is what it is. I apologize. So here we have %D in just straight lines. Okay, puts out the 40, no big deal. Okay, here we've got 5. So there's 5 here, 1, 2, with 3 spaces, and it's pushed to the right. With -5, there's still 5 spaces, but it pushes it on the other side. Okay, so it's lined up on that side. Okay. Here, you're saying I want 5.3. It's showing me 3 digits with a spacing of 5. Kind of make sense? Right, it would be that way.
Do you know Shy,
Shy who?
the black guy that came in?
Yeah.
I was helping him last night with the homework.
Yeah.
And do you know the compiler name and how to down?
This one? Yeah. I'll give it to you. Yep. I wasn't sure if it would put the 0. So what it does is it gives you 3 digits, it puts the 0 first, then pushes it. Only because it's 0.3. So for a float, you can do something very similar, okay? 10.3, 3 places after the decimal point, okay? I have a full length of 10, I want 3 decimal places, so it's slightly different. If you just want 3 decimal places and you don't care about the blank spaces, you can take that off, put 0.3 or just 0.3. Okay, which I believe is kind of what we did Wednesday.
So
Yes,
for this one, see, I said you have 5.
yes,
Would I do 5 spaces and then put 40, or would I do 3 spaces?
3. It's 5 altogether.
Also, I
Yep.
was wondering, do you guys have HDMI cord? Would I need to combine that?
I don't know. You'd have to ask IT. I don't have a random one sitting here, so. Okay. Again, plus shoots it to the right, minus shoots it to the left. Cool. Not too bad, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Okay, let's see what we all got going on next. Okay. So escape sequences, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but these are those with the /n. Okay, the only one that we used was this /n. The /n means new line. Okay, because printf does not have a carriage return in it. So as a review for Henry, it doesn't have a carriage return in it. So if you want to go to the next line, you have to type a /n. Okay, it ignores the /n and puts that carriage return. There are other ones that we can use. Okay, I don't usually use bells because beepy things. I don't like things that make noise. Just probably because I have kids and dogs. Noises are bad. But you can do a backspace and you can do a tab. So if you're trying to make a table with tabs or something like that to format it, you can use a /t. It'll take you to the next tabbed location. Okay, so just know that these are out there for you to have control. So something like this, here we've got item, tab, unit, tab, purchase, new line, right? Tab first, price, tab, date.
What is tab /D?
T, yes, for tab. Yeah, for some reason the escape sequences make sense. You know, N, new line, T, tab, you know, B, backspace. And then we've got, it just moves it backwards, one character. Those two don't really typically use, definitely use the new line and the tab. Okay. Now, we specify quotes by using quotes, right? What if you want to print a quote? Use the slash. Exactly. So the slash is the indicator that something else is gonna happen. It's kind of tells it, hey, watch out, something special is happening. So if we put a slash quote, it'll actually print a double quote.
Whoa,
I know, right? Mind blowing.
crazy.
Okay. The same thing with a slash, because we just said a slash means it's gonna be something, right? Well, what if I want to print a slash? Double slash. Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
You're so funny. Okay. Any questions on like the print Fs? I think we kind of went through how to use like most of them. Okay. It's not too bad, right?
So if you wanted to say print F,
Mhm.
like you want to print F,
Mhm.
you would just say print F, quotation marks, print F.
Yeah.
quotation-
Yeah, because it's not going to recognize it as a keyword if it's within quotes. So yeah, you can print, because you can print the word if,
Yeah.
you know, any of those keywords, as long as they're within double quotes, it doesn't even recognize it as a keyword.
Also, that knowledge check, was that a grade?
Yeah.
What's the whole point of this space?
Oh, that's a good question.
Balance this up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. 'Cause wasn't this 10.3? So it counts as one of those 10. Good question. And we wait for my machine to decide that it's going to wake up. Okay.
Assignment for is it?
Okay. I know. I think she had told me that. I'll have to look at it. Okay. So we talked about printf and we used scanf last time for user input, right? A lot of the conventions that we talked about in printf are going to be the same for scanf when we talk about the percent signs. Okay, you can have ordinary characters as same as anything that you have with the printf. So here, for example, we have a scanf. Remember, the big thing to remember with the scanf is that ampersand sign in front of your variable names, otherwise it will be confused. But here I can say %d, %d, %f, and put in 2 ints and 2 floats. Okay, so you can chain them together. So it's going to assign them again. I like to, I don't think I've ever had a scanf where I have them enter multiple things on one line. Usually because of prompts and things like that, I like to put on multiple lines, but it just makes a little bit more sense in my brain. Okay, again, this is the same that is required with the number of percent signs and the number of variables. They have to match up, just like in the printf. And again, the scanf is going to read everything else. So scanf is going to ignore your white space characters. So spaces, horizontal tabs, form, feed, new line, it does ignore those, okay, when it reads it in. Okay, so we said that has one number. So if they put a 1, a carriage return, a -20, a tab, and a 0.3, and a -4.0, it's actually going to see that all as one line, and it's going to take each piece and put it into each one of those variables. Okay, so it doesn't really take into account that the white space. If you're looking for an integer, it's going to look for either a numeric or a sign first, because it can be a signed number, so plus or minus, and then it's going to read until it finds a non-digit. So we had entered in some new numbers before. It does see the new line as a non-digit. Okay, so that's where it's going to stop. You can also use the E, F, and G when we look at scanf. Primarily, though, you're going to use the D and the F for most part, for the most part. Okay. So here, there's just an example of scanf we're gonna look at this input. So it looks for an integer. Remember we said integer goes to the first non-integer character. The non-integer character is a minus, so it stops and it's just going to have the 1. Okay, and then it's gonna go backwards. Okay. Integer, again, it's gonna read the plus or minus until it finds something that's not an integer, the decimal point. Okay, so it's gonna take the minus 20. Does that kind of make sense? And then it's gonna just work its way down the line. Most of the times with scanfs, you're not gonna get this crazy, especially when we're talking about things like this in command line. Most of the programming nowadays is done with, you know, GUIs and things like that. Most of the time, you don't have to worry as much about formatting. Hi. So these are just some more examples. So here we talked about this. Make sure that you have, you know, you don't, in the printf, you don't put the ampersand, because what it's going to give you if you do the ampersand is the actual memory address of where that variable is located if you do it in a print, which sometimes is kind of cool if you're just trying to see what's there. Okay. So we do want to use the scanf. So just make sure, you know, even though printf and scanf are very similar, they are different. I think is basically what a lot of this is. So here there is a little bit of a program to show some information about how to, this is, they're actually having you enter in a fraction and then they're adding the two fractions together. So you can see here, you know, we've got the sum is the result and it has the numbers. It's looking for the divisible sign to break the numbers up. That's what the scanf is showing you. And it's putting it into number 1 and then denominator 1. So it doesn't read it as a fraction. It's reading it as a what's the one on the top called? Numerator. That's it. A numerator and a denominator. Do you see how they're doing that? They're kind of being slick about it. Yeah, kind of makes sense.
Looks like your favorite subject.
What, English?
Math. That's what you don't like?
No, I don't like English.
Oh,
You need to wake up during my class, man.
sorry. Really don't like.
Unfortunately, most computer programmers are alike.